Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 27. And this is the Glow Up episode. Last week, we talked about going from midlife crisis to midlife rising. And I wanted to do an episode about how you can get out of a midlife crisis. What are the steps? What are the tools? What do you do? I had this beautiful conversation with a very dear friend who listened to my podcast, to the midlife crisis episode. And, she was unfortunately in the thick of it still. It had been several years. And for her, she couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel yet. And so she was asking for some guidance as to how I managed to get myself out of a midlife crisis and be in a position now where I feel more peace, more joy, and just more clarity in life. And so that really inspired me to do this episode. Listening to her story, I think definitely made me just feel more like, just made me be more intentional about how I guide people through, how to get out of a midlife crisis. There's several things to consider. First, my midlife crisis lasted about 4 years. I do feel that this year I am no longer in that fogginess, the sadness, the anxiety, any of that. I definitely feel very renewed energy, more happiness, more peace, more joy, just more like clarity in my life, which I'm very happy about. But I want to recognize that for some people, midlife crisis can be as short as a year, maybe less than a year, or it can go on for many years. So I want to be sensitive to that. And if you are someone who has been struggling for many years, definitely maybe in addition to the following steps that I'm going to guide you through, perhaps you might want to consider seeking more professional help, maybe a therapist, a counselor, a health and wellness coach, someone that can really give you advice based on what you're going through, if it's something that is health related or if it's something that is a little bit deeper, like depression, suicidal thoughts. Definitely, this episode is a little bit more light in terms of the things I'm going to say. But if you are going through a situation where it's, just more serious, I encourage you to seek, professional help. But nonetheless, I hope these things that I'm going to share with you do help you in some way. In my opinion, one of the toughest things about a midlife crisis is that you feel like there's no end in sight. You feel like you are never going to be able to feel happy again, to feel at peace, to find joy, to feel whole. You just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And just not knowing when is it going to end can just be very debilitating. And so, I wanted to have this conversation as a follow up to that episode. So, for the glow up, that was definitely a process. Just like the midlife crisis was a process, it had its steps. I would say that the glow up was the same. And I just want to reiterate that the steps that I'm going to go through, these are not in order of how I did them. These are just things that I did. But for the purposes of this podcast, I wanted to give it some structure so that it's easier for you to follow. You can take this list and say, I'm going to start with that one, and then I'm going to follow with that one, or you can just go across how you feel. I would say that the very first thing that I did was seek therapy. Therapy came into my life right before I underwent my hysterectomy. It's my friend Diego, and I just felt like I needed support to understand what was about to happen to me and how I could process it. But realistically, I had been wanting therapy for a long time, especially after getting married, because I felt that I no longer had the tools to navigate this big change in my life. And so I had been like postponing therapy for a while. So it landed right at the perfect time because unbeknownst to me, I was going through a midlife crisis, and then the hysterectomy happened, and it was the perfect time for me to seek help. So for me, therapy was hugely instrumental in my glow up. I would say that because I was receiving therapy, I was able to map out these different steps. And definitely, my friend and therapist Diego guided me through a lot of these things that I'm about to share with you. And it was a lot about me kind of putting these things into practice and really finding the benefits. But again, if you've never received therapy, I highly recommend it. I know that it's very scary, especially as a woman of color, because these topics are very taboo in our communities. Sometimes like we are ashamed to admit that we need therapy, or we're scared to see what we're going to find when we go through therapy. We definitely have a lot of walls up when it comes to that and those topics. But I would say that for me, it was truly transformational and a huge part of why I'm now in this place in my life of more peace and more joy and more clarity. The one thing that therapy did for me, or multiple things that therapy did for me, is that it really helped me unpack my fears. It helped me uh, understand the blockages where they were. It also helped me understand my pain, maybe pain that came from young age, from childhood, from family, from life experiences in general. It helped me understand where I was stagnant, where I was procrastinating. Like it really allowed me to, without filters, have a look in my life and just truly understand where I was allowing my fears to stop me, where my blockages were that were also keeping me from moving forward or just being my best self. So, again, I think therapy can help you uncover that. When we're going through a midlife crisis, it's very easy to just feel fog and lost. And obviously, a lot of it is also hormonal changes and, the aging process at play. But a lot of the times, it's also us having postponed seeking therapy and seeking help and expressing our feelings, expressing our fears. We keep doing the same, we keep making the same mistakes because those blockages are there. And so I think seeking a great therapist can really be a great way to start to unpack what is going on. And one other thing that therapy did for me was have really tough conversations, not only with myself, but for me, one example, in the workplace, I knew in my heart that a career in media was something that was no longer aligned with me, but I was very afraid to admit it to myself. I was very afraid to take myself out of that career because I was very successful. I was making really good money. And so why fix it if it's not broken? So I thought. So for me, having that conversation with my therapist was really rough. And it took many months for me to finally realize that it was time to let go of my career. And even after many months, even after I quit, I went back and I started consulting for media companies, doing the same thing that I was doing before, but at a smaller scale, because I thought I just need independence. But realistically, I was no longer in a place in my life where that career was what was right for me. I love my career. I enjoyed my career, but it was no longer serving me and the next phase. So I had to part ways. And so that's one of the hard things that therapy does is kind of once it exposes the things that are holding you back, you have two choices. Either, keep doing that and keep feeling lost and stagnant, or you can say, you know what, it stops here. I really want to overcome this. I want to move forward. So let me make that change. And so I highly recommend therapy. It's not easy. It definitely is a process, but it's so worth it. And you will be so much better for it. And you will start to unpack everything that you need to unpack so that you can come out on the other end. So I call this step two, but remember, there's no order. You can kind of do this as you wish. But step two, for the purposes of this conversation, step two is deconstructing your identity. And this part is so crucial because, okay, so you're in the middle of this midlife crisis, right? And up until this point, you have this sense of identity. It might be because you are a person that has a corporate career, and a lot of your sense of identity comes from that corporate identity. You are successful, you work for these companies, you make this money. um, you kind of see yourself in a specific light, right? Or your sense of identity can be, I'm a mom, I have children, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. When I let go of my identity as a mom, who am I? Or, your sense of identity can be tied to your culture, to being the first daughter, to being the only child, to being a spouse. Like, for me, I had to look at all the identities that I had up until that point, right? And so I had to look at my identity as a woman. I had just had a hysterectomy. And who am I as a woman if I don't have a uterus? It sounds very silly, but when you're going through something that deep, you you get into such a vulnerable place that you even question, am I still a woman if I don't have a uterus? I mean, is that like, is you're that vulnerable? And so for me, it was unpacking my identity as a woman who no longer has a uterus. The second part of it was leaving the corporate environment, my identity as a woman who is no longer at any company. And when I meet someone for the first time, what am I going to say? What do I work? I don't work anywhere. I don't work for a big company. What does that mean for me? Unpacking my identity as a married woman. And during those days of therapy, I was like in the cusp of separation. Navigating what that meant for me was really challenging. Like, I was navigating this new area of my life, or this new phase in my life for the first time. Um, Unpacking, who am I as an older woman? We talk about age and the tricks that aging, the mind tricks that aging plays on us. Who am I as an older woman? Who am I if I am no longer, as young or attractive, or all the ways that we just look at our external selves to validate who we really are. And so it really is a vulnerable place, because once you kind of see that all of the ways that you have been identifying yourself are crumbling, in my case, corporate, relationship, woman, you're like, okay, so then who am I? Who am I really? It's a very tricky place to be. You kind of have to understand, is your sense of self tied to where you work, how much money you make, what title you have, what is your marital status? Do you have children or not? Um, is it tied to your family values? Is it tied to outdated ideologies you had of yourself? Where is that? And how do you reconcile that new identity that you want to build now in this crisis that you're experiencing? And how do you want to lead moving forward? This is a very personal step, and one that requires a lot of grace and a lot of patience, a lot of honesty, a lot of vulnerability, but is one that once you kind of understand that you are not where you work, you are not who you're married to, you are not how many children you have, you are not what society says you are. You really are a beautiful soul that is here to evolve and to grow, and you're here to learn. And you kind of boil it down to those simple terms, and life just starts to get easier and easier. And as soon as I stopped, you know, worrying about, telling people, oh no, I left corporate. Oh no, I got divorced. Oh, I can't have children. The minute that I stopped worrying about those things, lightness just entered my body. I just feel lighter. I just feel freer. I just feel more at peace. And it's all about getting to a place of peace and contentment and joy. And so that's what it's all about. This second step is all about deconstructing that so that you can start to rebuild your foundation from a place that is true to you. The third one is, this could be a controversial one, because it's one that we put a lot of emphasis on, or that we're told to put a lot of emphasis on from the minute we're young girls, and that is decentralizing your romantic love and centralizing self love. And I just want to say that if you are in a relationship, proceed with caution on this one, okay? I am going through a separation. I have no romantic partners. I am not interested in any romantic partners for the time being. And so I can say this with a lot of certainty. But if you have a partner, a spouse, a romantic situation at home, treat this one very carefully. From the minute you experience your first menstruation, maybe that's when it starts for a lot of girls. You start to kind of like, feel attraction, and then you start to worry about romantic love from a very young age. You start to have crushes in school, and you see your friends like getting boyfriends, and you wonder, why can't I have a boyfriend? I want a boyfriend. You become a teenager, and then you graduate high school, and then you go to college, and then you go for your first job. And all throughout, you're kind of like seeking romantic relationships, and you're putting so much effort, the way you look, the way you act, your goals and your dreams and your goals. A lot of it are tied to finding that romantic love. I want to have a boyfriend. I want to get engaged. I want to get married. I want to have a baby. I want to buy a house. A lot of our goals and our dreams are tied to that romantic relationships. And that's a beautiful thing, right? It's definitely um, one of those things in life that just feels great. And that, if you have amazing love in your life from a romantic partner, it's beautiful. I'm not saying it's not, but just think about the amount of time we have dedicated throughout our lives to romantic relationships and to focusing our energy to romantic relationships. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. And what happens is that oftentimes when we are focused on romantic relationships, it means that we are not focusing on us. We are not thinking about us. I'm not saying all the time. I'm not saying everyone. But chances are, when we are so focused on romantic relationships, it means that we are not focusing on our needs. We're always thinking about the other person. We're always prioritizing the other person. We are always trying to fit into the other person's life and doing what they want us to do, or perhaps planning according to them and not according to what we want. And that's the case for a lot of relationships. And I hear this from many women. I'm not making this up, and this is not just about me. And so I think when we start to decentralize romantic love and centralizing on us, our well-being, our needs, our desires, our sense of purpose, our goals, our dreams, what do we actually want? Are we happy? When we start to kind of shift that attention from romantic to us, amazing things happen. And I've been able to do that, especially after my separation, where I've been just fully focusing on me, on my well being, my health, my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, my joy, what I want to do, my plans, my goals. And if it may feel a little selfish, and yes, of course it is, but that's the season that I'm in, right? I'm going through a separation. So rather than going again and seeking romantic partners, I decided I don't want that right now. I want to focus on me, because seeking romantic relationships, it takes a lot of energy, and I want to invest all my energy on me and my growth and my healing and my well-being. And that truly has been transformative for me this past year. And another thing that you do when you're decentralizing romantic love is you get to nurture other relationships in your life. Sometimes in relationships, we don't attend to friends as much as we should. Maybe we don't attend to our parents, our siblings, our family, people that really matter to us. We don't have time. We don't have a lot of time to spend with them. So we kind of deprioritize those relationships. So this is an opportunity to say, okay, I need to really shift some of this focus into other areas of my life, because these are also important. And I'm not saying that when you're decentralizing a romantic relationship, you're just ending it or letting go of it or deprioritizing it. What you're doing is just taking the focus and all your energy away from one thing and kind of spreading it out a little bit more evenly. So you have more time for you and thinking about you. You have more time to think about your friendships and all the other relationships that are matter to you. And what are the things that you want to do in your life? It's not just about relationships. Women are being told so many stories and just like old ideals. I want women to just be more empowered and know that yes, romantic relationships are important, but self-love, self-care is so important to you, especially as you're navigating a midlife crisis. And for me, not having to focus my energy on a romantic partner has allowed me to really focus on myself and what I want out of this next phase in my life. And I highly recommend you think through, what does that mean for me, right? And make it your own. Is step 4 is probably my favorite one. And this is a hard one to explain because I feel like we grow up thinking that women have the female energy, men have the masculine energy. We're not really taught that each of us manages masculine energy and feminine energy, regardless of our genders. It's a balance that we have to manage every day. So the fourth one is balance your feminine and masculine energy. And what does this mean? Let me just give you an example. So, coming from a Dominican family, I come from like a true matriarch in my family. And because a lot of these women have separated from their husbands and raised their children, a lot of them on their own, they exist purely in their masculine energy, in being the ones that um, earn a living for their family, raise their children, have to have all the answers, have to respond to every challenge, every problem, every situation. Um, they very rarely had anyone helping out in any real way. My tias help each other out, but in terms of having other people come in and help out, very rarely. And so, because that's how they grew up, my grandmother, too, my paternal grandmother, lost her husband when she was 29 years old and she had 8 children. She had to raise all of those children by herself. And so she carried that masculine energy, then pass it on to my tias, carried that masculine energy, then pass it on to me because I learned by example. And so, as a married woman, my example that I grew up in was just do it all. Don't ask for help. Don't receive help. Just you do it all. You can do it all. And it was something that it was in my subconscious. It wasn't something that I was aware of until therapy. And so I just wanted to give you that example. Is that energy of I don't need help. I can do it all. Um, I don't take compliments. I don't receive. Um, is that I'm tough. I'm hard. Is that masculine energy that I'm referring to? A lot of us women, and I say this with love, and I say this with care, a lot of us are walking purely in our masculine energy. That energy that is building walls, not showing up vulnerability, not receiving help, not asking for help, just wanting to do it all, wanting to prove that we are something, that we are strong, that we can manage anything. And yes, women are the most resilient beings on the planet. The most, no questions, full stop. We are the most resilient beings on the planet. We can do it all. But that does not mean that we should be doing it all. And so when I talk about balancing your feminine energy and your masculine energy, is understanding, okay, how can I go back to a place of asking for help when I need help, receiving compliments, receiving abundance? How can I lean into my intuition? Something that is so us, right? We are intuitive beings. How can I show my emotions without worrying about, what people will say or being judged. Like the feminine energy, again, is that intuition, creativity, emotion, sensuality, receptivity, just being, just flowing, just existing. We don't have to prove anything. We're beautiful, resilient. Going back to that. The masculine, on the other hand, is, you know, the sense of direction, having structure, putting a schedule together, wanting to cross things off the list, the logic, the reason, the presence, the doing, the protection. These are all beautiful qualities. When we lean into these qualities and we forget the others, intuition, creativity, just being, receptivity, we're kind of like the equation is not balanced, right? And so it's understanding like the attributes of male energy and the attributes of female energy, and understanding where do I need to balance. For me, it was transformative to stop just trying to fix everything, trying to do it all, trying to compete, trying to be strong all the time, building walls, not showing my emotions. I mean, doing this podcast, I've had to be very vulnerable, and that's on purpose. That's because I am balancing my female energy and I love doing it. And it's not easy, but it's what I'm called to do. And so, how do you step into that female energy? If you're at home like thinking about, oh shit, am I leaning on my masculine energy? I want you to make a list and say, okay, if I need to step into my feminine energy, you can do these things. Practice non-productive time. Okay. I know as a woman, especially if you have children, you have a long list of things you have to do constantly. How about you practice not doing all of it, or maybe decreasing, cutting that list, or perhaps taking a day off? Just practice non productive time, right? It can save your life, and it could just help you lean into that space of, I'm just being me. Others come and, serve me, right? Practice receptivity. Allow others to praise you, to give you compliments, to receive help, just to receive in general, to receive gifts, flowers. Don't complain, don't push back. Obviously, if it's being disrespectful, that's another situation, but receive. And that's something that I'm doing. Like the other day, I had this amazing birthday celebration, and unexpectedly, so many people showed up with gifts, and I was truly not expecting it. And I felt at first, I was like, oh my God, I feel embarrassed too. These people thought they had to bring gifts, and I don't need any gifts. And then I was like, this is so beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you bringing me a gift. And I was in tears by the end of the night. It was so beautiful. But yeah, just receive. Why not? Also, trust your intuition. As women, I think that's one of the things that really sets us apart from men, is like our unique intuition. We kind of know what's going on, and we just have to trust our intuition and follow it, especially when it comes to rebuilding our lives in a midlife crisis, and just like allowing ourselves to feel and to know what's next. Now, if on the other hand you need to step into more of your masculine energy, because that too, right? These are the things that you can do. Setting boundaries, and that's a beautiful one, because with women, we have no boundaries. We just want to help all the time. We have a hard time saying no, and so a masculine trait is setting clear boundaries. Only doing the things that you really feel like you want to do, especially things where you have the option to say no. I know a lot of the things you don't have the option to say no. You kind of have to do, especially if you're a mom, if you have big responsibilities in the workplace. But yeah, set boundaries. That's a great masculine trait. Um, Taking decisive action. I think one of the things that I admire from men is like sometimes they don't they don't give a F about deciding, what they want to do. And sometimes women, we think about it too much, or we think about other people, how is it going to affect them? Perhaps taking more decisive decisions is a great way to step into that masculine energy. And if you go online and you look at how do I balance my feminine and my masculine energy, there's a lot of information that you can find. Again, for me, it has been life changing. Life changing. And if you notice me dressing up a little bit more, I don't know, girly, if you feel that my energy is softer or that the way that I communicate is like a little softer, it's because I'm allowing myself to be that way. Because for so long, especially in the corporate environment, I felt like I had to be tough, like I had to wear suits and look confident and be competitive and be strong-willed and all these things. And yes, those are wonderful things, but when you're kind of like doing it because you're being performative, that takes a toll on you. And those are the things that start to deplete your energy. So I encourage you to go and look for more ways, or send me a DM and I'll tell you more. But I love this one. This is probably my favorite one. Last but not least, and this kind of plays into the feminine masculine energy too a little bit. This is letting go of perfectionism, mujer. Let go of perfectionism. Guilty as charged, me. I know I may not look like a perfectionist, and I'm not. I'm like a type B perfectionist. Like, I care, but I don't care that much to be a perfectionist. Like, I think when you, as a woman, especially as a woman who walks in her masculine energy, sometimes we think we have to be perfect in the way we look, in how we show up, in how we perform, in how we parent, in how our homes look, in how we are as a friend, as a daughter, as a whatever. We always have that pressure of feeling like we need to be perfect. Why? Why do we feel that? I know it comes from family history, family trauma, the way you were raised, to not make mistakes, to work 10 times as hard to prove your worth as a woman of color. I know it comes from a lot of different places, but I'm here to tell you, if there's one thing that will block you from stepping out of a midlife crisis and finding happiness and peace and joy and clarity, that one thing is holding on to perfectionism. I am so over perfectionism, and I have mild examples of how I was trying to be a perfectionist in my life without even realizing it, and how the time constraints. If I am planning an event, it could be a family thing or a friend thing, controlling all the details, wanting for things to go perfectly so badly, to the point that I would not enjoy the moment, because if something didn't turn out perfect, I would just, it would just like ruin my day. Why? For who? For what? If there's anything we know about this life, is that it is imperfect. Embracing imperfection, embracing chaos, embracing change, embracing that you don't have to be perfect will liberate you like nothing else on this list. If you take one thing away today, let it be that. Letting go of perfectionism. Perfectionism ruins creativity, ruins fun, ruins growth, ruins learning. It ruins everything. And so if you can start to embrace imperfection in your life, going with the flow, taking the day as it comes. Yes, we want to direct our lives. We, especially if we have big goals, we want to be able to plan and direct and do all these things. But if we are not willing to embrace imperfection, we're not going to have a good time, ladies. It's going to be really rough. And remember, this is all about getting out of this damn midlife crisis. So let go of imperfection and go with the flow will change your life. I have gotten so good at letting go of imperfection and letting God surprise me. I think that's the reason why I'm so happy and I have so much peace because there's very few things that can now ruin my day. Whereas before, any little thing would throw me off. If there was traffic, if my car was this, if my house was that, if someone acted this way, if I got a no instead of a yes, so many things were just keeping me from seeing the lesson, the learning, the opportunity. Now I just like, oh, you didn't respond to me? Okay. Oh, you said no? Okay. Oh, that didn't work out? Okay. Like, I know it's not easy because we're so focused on like getting that thing and just getting through everything that we want it to be perfect. But trust me, the sooner we realize that, the quicker we'll get to joy and peace and happiness and wholeness. That's it. That's the secret. Those are all the things I did. And I really, really hope that you know that all of these things that I walk you through are 1000% things that have really changed my life. And if you implement it along with, you know, self care, eating healthy, exercising, I meditate, I pray, um, I'm trying to be present in my life, trying to notice the miracles that exist around me every single day, leaning into the simplicity of life, decentralizing money. We didn't talk about money, but understanding that money truly is not everything. I mean, think about my media career, and it was very successful. I was making good money, and I wasn't happy. And now that I'm in this phase in my life, money has been totally decentralized, and that's another area too that you can like explore for yourself. But leaning into the simplicity of life, appreciating what you have, actually using what you have, um, you'll know that, it's a lot simpler to get to that point of happiness. And so I hope this episode was helpful to you. I'll probably do another third part because, again, this topic is very extensive. But I hope this was helpful. And if this resonated with you, please let me know. Send a comment, send me a text, call me. I'm always available to just connect and see how I can help. I love you. I'll be in the studio in Times Square soon, recording new episodes there. And for now, I hope I hear about more women getting to the end of their midlife crisis and more people in general. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next one. Un beso. Mwah.